People, welcome to another episode of the Balance and Empathy Show. We are broadcasting today from Greece, where I am, Canada, where Ashok is, and Perth, Australia, where Miss Rena is located. Today, we're going to talk about balance in different areas of life, because if one area in your life isn't well balanced, it can set off all other areas in your life. So we're going to talk about that today. If you're listening, please put in a comment and let us know where are you watching from, because we always want to know where our viewers are based. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will show your question live and try to answer it as best as we can. Now, to get started, actually, Karina had a very good conversation last time. I couldn't be there about this certain topic. So, Ashok, maybe you can kick this off today. Balance in different areas of life. So, which areas are you thinking of?
Well, when I meet somebody for the first time in my office, my goal is to try and find where their balance is and where their balance is not. And obviously, we can think of standing, maybe standing on one foot, certainly standing on both feet. If they don't have physical balance, literally, they're going to fall. And in the same way, if they don't have balance in other areas of their life, they're going to fall as well. And I break balance down into four separate areas, which is their physical balance, their emotional balance, their social balance in their relationships, and finally their spiritual balance, or the balance with their soul. And by looking at those various areas in a person's life, I can help them identify where they are standing stably and where they're falling down. Rena?
Absolutely. So, from my perspective, balance relates to all aspects of our lives, whether it be our relationships, whether it be our careers, or our health. But for me, fundamentally, the foundation of balance is all about consciousness. Because I've been meditating for the last 30 years. I've been doing transcendental meditation, right? And through connecting with consciousness, what it's enabled me to do is to develop my balance awareness, which is my mind, my body, and my spirit. And therefore, it helps me to actually achieve fulfillment and happiness.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, go ahead, Rita.
Yeah. So it dovetails into exactly what you're talking about, I think, being the spiritual, the emotional, the social, and the spiritual. It dovetails very nicely into what you've just said. But fundamentally,
I think for a lot of people, and I would love, Rena, for you to explain a little bit about what the process of meditation is, because a lot of people aren't really quite sure how to meditate, what it is, and what the value of it could possibly be as far as helping them balance their consciousness. Can you give us a flavor of that?
Absolutely. So everyone, welcome, by the way, from all over. I'd like to say welcome to It's Wonderful to have you on the show today. So if we can imagine our minds at the top of the ocean, where it's very choppy, unpredictable, and we've got so many thoughts, and there's a lot of chatter going on in our brains, right? So we're at the top of the ocean. And what I do, and what I've learned to do through transcendental meditation, is to actually take my body to the bottom of the ocean, where it's calm and it's still, and it actually enables me to experience a deeper form of rest in that pure consciousness. I get rid of all the cobwebs, and so I'm at that peace and tranquil level, and it gives me the ability to get rid of the stresses, help me manage my stress, and it gives me a very calm feeling. So It enables me to I guess, filter all those stresses, and it's a very beautiful feeling, calmness. If you can imagine, you're on the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of that seabed, how tranquil it is, you know. She's in Greece, everyone, and she's going snorkeling on a reef. So it's that experience, that calmness, you know, for the 20 minutes that I meditate for. And that's very refreshing, and it really helps me to reset.
So I think Rena, what I hear you saying, and I don't want to get this wrong, of course, but what I hear you saying is that when we are at the top of that ocean, there's a lot of noise happening. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of thoughts coming and going. And then when you get down to the bottom, there's a simplicity. There's a chance to focus, or even better, to unfocus, so that you're not being pulled in any particular way. And what a lot of people have trouble doing, especially when I deal with issues with anxiety or stress, is that people are not necessarily focused on the right things. They're focused on everything or too many things that are causing their mind to get cluttered up, stressed out. They're not seeing a solution, they're seeing problems. And they're not and another really important issue is a calm mind can solve problems. A stressed out mind is running around in circles looking for a corner to sit down in. And so the beauty of what you're saying is that the person's mind becomes a much better place to be able to relax, recharge, but also consider, once you come back to that surface, on how to rebalance your life based on the calmness that you've just achieved. Would you agree with that, Tisha?
No, I totally agree. And I know Rena has been meditating for so long, and she always talks about how it benefits her. And I always think I need to do more of that too. And well, actually, the way where I am like defocusing at the moment is by spending some time in an entire different place, you know. And luckily, traveling is now again possible, so I'm able to do that being here in Greece, defocusing, spending, you know, quality time with your family and doing something quite different than your daily work. And it really gets your mind in a really relaxed state. And that always helps me. You know, unfortunately, that's only a couple of weeks a year. So we cannot be here every day. So I think meditating is a really good way to declutter yourself, declutter your mind, and then it opens up much more space for you to actually focus on the things you want and becoming the person you want to be.
I also think, Tisha, from what you're saying, because my wife and I like to travel as well, we're looking forward to doing it again. But when you travel, you take yourself out of the life that you're normally in. And
Absolutely.
sometimes you can get so far out of it that your perspective on your life is very different, because you're outside of your life. And you can't see a forest if you're in it, but you can see a forest if you're outside of it looking at it. And in the same way, if your life is very complex or if you have lots of issues and you get out of your life for a moment, you can actually have something called perspective. So you can see your life. And so a very useful
Absolutely.
thing I do in a meditative way is to imagine sometimes I imagine I'm on a different planet looking at Earth. And then I can really get a different perspective on what silly thing was I worrying about that for if I'm sitting on the planet Zardon, and now I'm looking back at Earth. Having perspective, and this is why traveling and meditation is so helpful, to improve that balance between the things that we think are worrisome and causing us trouble and the things that actually are. Knowing what to worry about and knowing what not to worry about, so that your concerns and your mental energies become much more efficient.
That's so true. And I really recognize what you're saying because usually when I am on vacation, I do often reflect my life in total and think about, am I where I want to be? Because when you're in your daily occupations, your daily struggles, your daily work, you just kind of lose that big perspective, right? And then when you take yourself out of that situation, you take a look back of what were you doing, and does that add to your plans? Does that lead you to where you want to be? And for me, it always really helps to also put plans in place. And again, bring yourself back into that balance, being leveled again, and moving forward from a more level place.
And the other thing that I like to do too is I think about what I call brain fitness, which is about looking after your obviously your thinking brain, your balanced brain, your motor cortex, but also your left and right brain. And you guys both know that I like music and art. And so when you're doing those things, you're actually exercising your right brain. You're giving your left brain a total break. And you're living you're actually kind of like window washing your brain, and that relaxes and recharges the resting part and fires up the other part so that you can actually experience literally balancing your brain from a creative point of view.
That's just so wonderful. And coming back to the art for our viewers, if you see up there in the corner, our little brand, that is actually a painting that Ashok made. He does wonderful paintings, and it's so beautiful that we were able to use this for our branding. It's so unique. So just wanted to let
Thank
our
you.
viewers know about your art and your music, of course. We have a little music clip, that we made, the three of us singing about balance and empathy. And this was also much of your work doing, Ashok. So that's so amazing.
Thank you.
Um, Let us see if we have maybe some questions coming in. We have Carlos Peterson. So great that you're watching, Carlos. Welcome. He says, I am trying to use some time every morning for widening my perspective for the current day. And I think that's just wonderful. And I actually was recommended to read a book about this that's called Miracle Mornings. And I do have to read it, so I haven't read it yet. But from what I've learned, it's all about taking some time in the morning to really reflect, meditate, exercise, and really take time to plan your day, practicing some gratitude. And this will just set your day off much more positively than if you rush up, your alarm goes, you stand up, you rush to your work, and then you're kind of, in that daily drain. And instead, if you wake up a little earlier and you take some time to do this, to have a miracle morning, this will balance your day so much more. And I'd love to know, Asha and Rina, what's your experience with this?
Well, I'd like to go ahead,
Sorry.
Rena.
Rina, why don't you start?
Yes, certainly. So I was going to say it's interesting because I use my phone as my alarm in the morning, and you know how aggressive that alarm can be. I've moved it to a different. It's just I've moved it to a different softer mode, and it makes such a beautiful difference. The way I wake up in the morning now, it's so much more gentle and integrated. Which is a beautiful start to my day. But yes, certainly from a gratitude perspective, always that's really important from my perspective to show gratitude. But the meditation is a wonderful way to give me the clarity, as I said, to get rid of those cobwebs and really get started. A full day, it really gives me so much fuel and ammunition to really get ahead and to be able to manage the stresses that I might be faced with. Because we all have stresses in our daily jobs. We might have an action plan of things that we plan to do and we list them out in priority. But invariably what happens is we don't stick to that plan because things come in all, from different angles. So we need to be able to adapt, be flexible to all those circumstances. And so having that first up meditation in the morning makes my life so much easier. Sorry, you were going to say.
Yeah, I just want to add that.
Asha, what's your experience?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that at nighttime, it's time to kind of shut off your devices and shut off your mind. And so the way we fall asleep is that we fall asleep, which means you have to let go of your consciousness. to be able to fall asleep. So if you're lying in bed thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do tomorrow? You're actually firing up your brain again. So you can't let go. So the value of setting your intentions in the morning, and hopefully they're reasonably realistic, you can set your intentions in the morning. And at the end of the day, when you're doing your review, that again, not at night, sort of later in the evening, you can check off what you did and say, well, there's always tomorrow when I can reset my intention. So that when it's time to go to sleep, your brain is actually giving itself permission to let go of all those worries and thoughts, because next morning you'll be fresh and recharged to be able to set your intentions again. So people sometimes set their intentions at night and then they have trouble sleeping. And so it's important to rebalance it and have it in the morning. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely do agree with that. No, that's very well said. And for me, getting up early is not one of my favorite things, but I do notice when I do so, and I have some time to myself before everything starts, right? Before the riot starts, so to speak. If you have some time for yourself, and plan some things, have some gratitude and plan like the three things you want to get done that day, like just three, not more, and you
Right.
start doing them, then you're able to check them off and you feel some form of fulfillment. You have achieved something that day that you wanted to achieve, and then you go through the rest of your day so much better.
That's right.
So, Tisha, we have a question from John. John, we are listening to you. John said he finds it difficult to concentrate.
Yes, that was a comment quite early in our broadcast, but I remember he said he has trouble concentrating. So I think what would be very helpful for John, because I think, and maybe Rena, you can elaborate on that, being so experienced in meditating, if John were to try start meditating, that could actually help focus more, get some tension off, and that would help with your concentration. Wouldn't you agree, Rena?
Absolutely. Well, I love the saying, it goes like this: the only way to change someone's mind is to connect them from the heart. That's really important, and it's what, I'm sure you can elaborate more from that perspective, because you're doing this on a daily basis with your clients.
And I think when we're talking about concentration, we're talking about what to pay attention to and what to not pay attention to. And for some people, they have difficulty differentiating between what's relevant to think about and get concerned about and what's not. And that's why concentrating can be really, really helpful. Or practice concentration things. Like, for example, if you're looking in the sky, just try and track one bird, even though there might be a number. Or if you're listening to a song, just listen to just the singer, or just the guitar, or just the bass drum, if it's a piece of music like that. And that way, when you practice focusing in like that on one aspect of something, when you step back, you see the bigger picture. But when you lean in, you can actually train your mind to focus very, very well. And I know this in music production because sometimes I'll have to listen to a whole song and just pay attention to the bass drum, the whole song. And that means you've got to get rid of everything else and just make sure that drum is sounding very solid the whole tune. And I noticed doing that for years and years, you actually get better at listening very specific to things. And I realized, oh my gosh, you can use this in every other way of using our brain and our mind to focus in on things and improve our power of concentration.
And that comes back to your point that you made, Ashok, in the beginning, where people are focused on too many things.
Yes.
So what you're doing now is you're just really honing in.
Yes.
That one bird in the sky. Or
That's
that
well
one
said, Ashok. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rena.
So we've just got a comment there from Dr. Aaron.
Yes, he says early morning wake up call is always great, so we get some time to refresh and re-energize. It is a trick. So he agrees with what Ashok is saying. As well said, the early morning wake ups. For me, again, I do have to do that more, but I know when I do it, it's really so fulfilling, and I actually enjoy the quiet mornings so much.
I mean, obviously, exercise, plays a big part, and eating, good food. That's really important. But I find exercise for myself, it makes me in a really good mood. That serotonin, that lift, and it's great for the heart, obviously, as well. So I find, for me, exercising in the morning is great, but also eating the right types of food, not too much for me, not too much carbohydrate, and having that right balance of the fatty acids is key as well. For my brain, I find I can concentrate better and I don't get so fatigued during the day.
Yeah, I
So
think
true,
exercise.
Rena.
I think exercise and movement, like I said, it fires up your motor cortex of your brain, so it's really good for your mind. It also helps you to focus. When you're exercising, I'm a cyclist and I'm a runner. But when you're cycling, you have to be very focused on what you're doing. And that period of focus and concentration, once again, improves your capacity to concentrate in other places. And when we're exercising, we're using our entire brain when we are exercising. And that when your entire brain is connected to itself, like this, your whole brain gets better at what it is supposed to do, which is, I mean, I guess in the old days, to get a stick and go out and try and get something in the woods and bring it back to the tribe. Or if you're gathering, to make sure you don't bring home a mushroom that can poison the whole tribe. So you have to be very focused on doing the right things when you're doing that. And when you are exercising and combining that with your thinking processes, that really helps you to be able to concentrate better, especially if you're eating the right foods and getting the right balance in your nutrition as well.
I can totally agree with this, Ashok. And actually, when I'm exercising, I also find that somehow my brain is relaxing because I'm focusing it only on the exercisements, having to jog, having to make that mile, and then all the rest is forgotten in that moment, and it gives your brain a break. That's what it does for me anyway. So we have another comment, question actually coming in from Dr. Arun. Thank you for watching, Dr. Arun. He says, in case there is a choice between morning walk and meditation, what should we choose? As per your experience, please. What do you think, Ashok? What would be your choice?
Well, for me, running is my meditation. So I notice if I have a lot of clutter in my thought, when the kids were younger, they would sometimes say, "Dad, go for your exercise because you're grumpy." And so I would go, and by the time, and I just think it's a meditative process that happens when you get into that kind of zen. There's also a little bit of endorphins that you're building as well, so you're elevating yourself to a different state. But you don't really have to think about anything particularly. You can let your mind float. And what I find really interesting sometimes before I go out for a run is I'll set a question. By the time I come back, I've got the answer. And I just ran around the block, basically. But somehow my brain was able to get rid of the clutter, and I could come up with some kind of a solution, whether it's the first sentence to my new novel or something, or a problem I've been thinking about. And I think what happens there really is that the clutter just kind of disappears, and the answer appears like a needle in a haystack. The hay just kind of disappears, and you see the needle there gleaming. So I think that's my form of meditation, is my exercise.
I would totally agree with that. And actually, I can say that it's my belief that the best ideas are not born behind a desk. Usually, in my case, it's when I'm doing something totally different. Like you said,
Right.
then the clutter disappears, you're doing something different, and then all of a sudden, all these beautiful ideas come into your mind, right? And that's not
Yeah.
happening while I'm sitting at a desk somewhere. That's me
Right.
being out somewhere and having that inspiration.
Right.
What about you, Rena?
Great question. Well, what I would say is the choice is you actually wake up half an hour earlier so you can incorporate both of those activities. So for me, that clarity, getting rid of the cobwebs, very important. It nurtures my brain and it gives me the ability to have that clarity to make the right informed decisions. And then spending time with nature, showing gratitude. appreciating the beauty that I have around me. So I would say both of them, Dr. Adam. Just woke up half an hour earlier.
Well said. And I think we covered a lot of beautiful points today. I'm sorry, Rena. We have a little bit delay in the connection, I guess. So I thought you were done, but you weren't. So go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah, well, that happens. Technical resistance, right? But we're all good now. So I think we covered a lot of beautiful points today about how to achieve balance. Would you kindly mention how do you achieve balance, your number one way, Rena and Ashok, before we close off the show?
Just allow yourself to wake up very gently in the morning. Do some deep breathing and then settle your mind through whatever meditation that you choose to start your day in a beautiful way.
Beautiful. And Ashok.
For me, actually use empathy quite a lot to understand balance. So I'll take a look at the people around me, the situation around me, and try and empathize what that needs. And I'll look at myself and look at what I need to find that balance. I'll look deep within as well as superficially. And then once I've got a sense by empathizing with my environment, which includes myself, then that can really help me to find the balance so I can start my day with the right intention.
Well, that's very beautifully said. I have nothing to add to that, except, take yourself out of your daily situation. So have that perspective and then regain your balance. That would be my advice to you. I want to thank you, Ashok and Rena, for your beautiful contribution to today's episode of the Balance and Empathy Show. And I recommend all viewers to please go ahead and follow them with their beautiful posts, their beautiful advice that they work very hard on every day. Go ahead and follow them. You will not regret it. Thank you so much all for watching today, and we will be back here in another 2 weeks. See you then. Bye bye.